The history of the Ottoman Empire is vast, complex, and deeply layered. It is remembered for its breathtaking architectural achievements, powerful rulers, intricate legal systems, and a civilization that bridged East and West for centuries. Yet behind the grandeur of domes, palaces, and imperial ceremonies lay a system of justice shaped by fear as much as order. Like many empires of the pre-modern world, the Ottomans governed through authority that was meant to be seen, felt, and never questioned. Welcome to Hidden Secret Tales, where we examine the chapters of history that are often softened, simplified, or quietly ignored. This is not a story meant to sensationalize cruelty, but to confront it honestly. To understand how power was preserved, how obedience was enforced, and how justice, in its harshest form, functioned within one of history's most formidable empires. Punishment in the Ottoman Empire was not random violence. It was calculated, public, symbolic, designed not only to punish the offender, but to shape behavior across society. These methods were intended to instill fear, reinforce hierarchy, and demonstrate the absolute reach of the state. While horrifying by modern standards, they were consistent with the realities of governance in a world where law relied less on incarceration and more on irreversible consequence. What follows is an exploration of some of the most brutal punishment methods used under Ottoman rule, methods that reveal the darker mechanics of justice in an age where mercy was often secondary to control. Few punishments inspired as much terror as eye gouging. Reserved primarily for those accused of grave crimes against the state, traitors, conspirators, and political rivals, this punishment was meant to destroy without killing. In the Ottoman worldview, blinding an enemy was often considered more severe than execution. Death ended suffering, blindness extended it indefinitely. The famed Ottoman traveler and chronicler Evliya Çelebi recorded instances where eye gouging was carried out publicly in town squares and administrative centers. The condemned would be restrained while executioners used sharp metal instruments to remove the eyes. These acts were not hidden, they were deliberate spectacles. Blinding stripped an individual of independence, honor, and participation in society. A blind man could not fight, govern, read, or lead. Symbolically, it rendered him powerless, unable to see the empire he had supposedly betrayed. Politically, it eliminated threats without creating martyrs. For many, this fate was considered worse than death. It ensured survival in humiliation, dependence, and isolation, a living reminder of the state's reach. Beheading was among the most common and symbolically powerful execution methods in the Ottoman Empire. It was used for crimes ranging from treason and rebellion to murder and severe disobedience against imperial authority. Unlike other methods, beheading was designed to be swift. A single, decisive strike with a sword or axe reflected the empire's emphasis on efficiency and control. Yet despite its speed, it was rarely private. Public beheadings were staged events. Crowds gathered not only to witness justice, but to absorb its message. Each execution reinforced the Sultan's absolute power, the reminder that loyalty was not optional. One of the most significant historical examples is the execution of Sheikh Bedreddin in 1420. Once a respected jurist, theologian, and former Ottoman judge, Bedreddin became the leader of a rebellion advocating social equality and economic reform. His movement attracted peasants, soldiers, and marginalized communities. To the Ottoman state, this was not reform, it was rebellion. Captured after defeat, Bedreddin was sentenced to death despite his religious standing. His public beheading in Serres, modern-day Saris, Greece, served as a clear warning: ideology could not challenge empire. After military victories, severed heads of enemy leaders were often displayed on spikes or sent to the capital as trophies. These grim symbols demoralized enemies and celebrated Ottoman dominance. Not all punishments ended lives. The falaka, a form of corporal punishment, was widely used across Ottoman society, from military discipline to judicial sentencing, and even in educational institutions. It involved binding the victim and striking the soles of the feet with rods or sticks. Though it left few visible scars, the pain was excruciating. Victims were often unable to stand or walk for days. In severe cases, nerve damage caused lifelong impairment. The falaka was administered publicly, with the number of strikes carefully measured according to the offense. Its appeal lay in its efficiency: extreme pain without permanent mutilation. For the Ottomans, this punishment reinforced discipline while preserving the labor value of the punished individual, especially soldiers and slaves. Pain became a tool of correction rather than elimination. Hanging was another widely practiced method of execution, particularly for crimes such as murder, theft, and insurrection. It was often carried out in marketplaces, crossroads, or near city gates, places of daily life. The body was sometimes left suspended long after death, serving as a silent warning to passers-by. In certain cases, variations such as hooks or poles were used, increasing the cruelty and prolonging suffering. Public hanging reinforced the omnipresence of the law. Justice was not abstract, it was visible, unavoidable, and permanent. Amputation was a punishment most commonly associated with theft and rebellion. Hands, feet, or fingers were removed to permanently disable the offender and prevent repeat crimes. This punishment was deeply symbolic. A severed hand marked a thief for life. It transformed the body into evidence, an unspoken confession carried everywhere. Amputations were conducted publicly, often in bustling commercial areas. The spectacle reinforced property rights and state authority while embedding fear into the collective consciousness. In Ottoman legal thought, amputation was not cruelty, it was deterrence. Among the most extreme punishments was emasculation, the removal of a man's genitals. This penalty was rare but devastating. It was typically used as political retribution or punishment for sexual crimes. In a patriarchal society, emasculation stripped a man of identity, lineage, and social standing. It destroyed both physical capability and symbolic masculinity. This punishment extended beyond the individual. It erased future generations, severing family lines permanently. Perhaps the most infamous punishment associated with the Ottoman world was impalement. This method involved driving a sharpened stake through the body, often entering through the lower torso and exiting through the chest or mouth. Death could take hours or days. Impalement was reserved for what the state deemed the most heinous crimes. It was designed not merely to kill, but to terrify. While Vlad the Impaler is most famously associated with this method and was an enemy of the Ottomans, the empire itself employed impalement as a tool of psychological warfare, particularly in rebellious regions. Rows of impaled bodies sent a clear message: resistance would be answered with unimaginable suffering. The punishment methods of the Ottoman Empire were not chaotic acts of cruelty. They were components of a legal and political system that relied on fear, visibility, and permanence. Justice was public, punishment was symbolic, power was absolute. These methods reflected an era when maintaining order in a vast, diverse empire required extreme measures. While modern perspectives recoil at such brutality, understanding them is essential to understanding how empires functioned and how they eventually fractured under the weight of their own systems. History is not only built by glory, it is shaped by control. At Hidden Secret Tales, we believe confronting these uncomfortable truths is essential, not to judge the past by modern standards, but to understand the forces that shaped it. If this exploration into history's darker corridors resonated with you, consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts. The past still speaks, if we are willing to listen.